In this video, we will cover the types of variables in Python, and also we will cover a lot of other notes, such as, for example, escape characters, strings with multiple lines, and a lot of other things that we will cover in this video. So please stay tuned. So let's talk about different types of variables. Number one is integer. For example, here I'm defining a variable called x and I'm storing this value into x. So in this case, the type of variable x is going to be integer. But for example, if I pass something like this, 3.14, the type of this variable, x, is going to be float. And the third types of variables is a string, which is a text. For example, here I can open a double quotation, and also I should close the corresponding, the per double quotation. And after that, between these two double quotations, I can type whatever I want to type. So this is a text. So in this case, the type of this variable, x, is going to be string. And now let's add a couple of notes. For example, the other note is that instead of double quotations, you can use single quotations as well. And the other note is that maybe you ask, oh, what if I want to have, for example, a text with multiple lines? So what should I do in that case? In that case, you can use, for example, 3 double quotations. So you should open 3 double quotations and also close the corresponding 3 double quotations. And for example, here you can type whatever you want to type. So this is I'm Sajjad. This is my first name, and this is a Python tutorial. So as you can see, we can have multiple lines inside these 3 double quotations, and also instead of 3 double quotations, you can have 3 single quotations as well. So if you want to have a text with multiple lines, you can use these structures which I mentioned. 3 double quotations or 3 single quotations. But remember that the type of all of these variables is string. So now let's talk about a couple of notes about a string. So the first note is that, for example, here if I define x is equal to, and if I want to define a string using single quotations, and if I want to type something like this, and if I paste it, for example, here, and as you can see, here we are running into problems. Why? Because here we are opening the string using this single quote, and here Python interprets this single quote as ending the string. So it considers this part as a string, but the rest would be a weird thing to Python. So the question is, how can we solve this? We have 2 approaches. We can do 2 things to solve this problem. So let's talk about approach number 1. Approach number 1 is to use something what we call escape character, and which is a backslash. So this backslash is called escape character in this context. Why it is called escape character? Because this escape character in Python in this context has the following role. It is going to say to Python this. It is going to say, hey, Python, please do not consider the role of this single quote. I don't want the role of this single quote. What is the role of single quote? The role of single quote is defining a string. So here we are saying to Python, hey, Python, we don't want the role of single quote. We want the character itself. So using this escape character, we are escaping from the role of this character, but we want the character itself. The literal character, the character itself. So using this escape character, we are saying Python that we don't want the role of the character, but actually we want the literal character, the character itself. So this is the purpose of escape character. And now if I print the x variable, and if I run the code, you can see everything is working and there is no problem. So this was approach number 1. And approach number 2 is to use double quotations. So if I use double quotations, there is not going to be any problem, and here everything is going to be fine. So if I run the code, you can see here we have the text and everything is fine and we don't have any problem. And now let's talk about the other types of variables in Python. For example, if I simply type x is equal to, and then I simply type 10 is greater than 5. So this statement is true. Absolutely, 10 is greater than 5, so it's a true statement. So now if I print the x variable and if I run the code, and by the way, when I say print, I don't mean printing using, for example, papers or something. No, I mean printing the result in the output. And as you can see, this is the output. So here, as you can see, when we are printing the x variable, we can see the value is true because this statement is a true statement. But for example, instead of this, if I put, for example, a less than sign, and if I run the code, you can see this statement is false. So here we have some variables which can be true or false. And the type of these kinds of variables is called Boolean. And also remember that we can pass explicit values as well. For example, here we can say x is equal to true or x is equal to false. And remember that the first letter is uppercase. And I'm sure that a lot of people would ask, oh, what is the use case of, for example, these kinds of things? So in order to answer these kinds of questions, I mean the use cases and these kinds of things, you should wait because here we are in the start of the process. But as we go through this step-by-step tutorial playlist, we will cover more stuff and we will see more use cases later on in this playlist, but you should wait till then. The other type of variables in Python is complex numbers. And actually, this type of variable is not very common, but because some people study that in mathematics, I want to cover that as well. So in mathematics, you can see, if you remember from mathematics, we have some stuff like this, 5 plus 3i. This is a complex number. And for example, this is the real part of this number, and this is the imaginary part of this number. And by the way, if you don't know about complex numbers, don't worry about that because as I've told you, these things are not very common, but I'm mentioning them because some people have studied them in mathematics. Anyway, if you want to store such a thing in a variable in Python, we can simply type something like this, 5 plus 3. But remember that you should not type I, you should type J. And I know that in mathematics, we use I, it means imaginary, but in Python, you should not use I, you should use J. And also remember that here between 3 and this J character, we are not putting anything such as asterisk or any other thing. So remember that you should type it like this, 5 plus 3J. So this is the imaginary part and this is the real part of the number. That's it. So this is the complex number. This was one of the videos of a step-by-step tutorial playlist of Python. You can find a link to that playlist in the description below. And also we have other playlists for other topics, which you can find them on the channel page. By the way, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.